name is Eva, and I would like to welcome you to another episode of The Charm of It, a podcast for knitters who share my fascination with the nitty-gritty details of our craft. If you're a returning viewer, it is so nice to see you again. And if you're a new viewer, I'm really glad that you found your way to my little corner of the internet. Today I have one finished object to talk about with you, a couple works in progress, nothing exciting, you've seen them before. I'm going to be talking about a knit-along, and then I have two literary knitting things to share with you, just in books that I've been reading this week. And finally, for a topic, I have decided that August is going to be the month where I go through everything in my sweater drawer and figure out what I want to keep, what I want to modify, and what I want to frog and reclaim the yarn. So I've got a stack of sweaters to talk about with you today. And that's going to be the episode. I am trying yet another experiment with the filming. I noticed when I was editing last time that with this lens, it likes to, when it's on autofocus, it adjusts focus a lot, and that made me a little seasick when I was editing, so I imagine it might make you seasick as well. So I have it in manual focus, and hopefully that means my head is in focus. It's a little hard to tell on the screen. But that means that it won't hunt for focus at all throughout the episode. It also means that I won't be holding my projects up super close to the camera. Instead, I'm just going to insert any photos if I really want you to see up close details. So let me know if that works better for you. This is all just one big playful thing for me at this point. So first, I will do the finished object. It's an octopus! Yay! I am really excited to introduce Damphair. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's a gift from my boyfriend, so he named the octopus and has decided the octopus prefers to have no gender, so I'll be using they and their as pronouns. But I am incredibly pleased with how they turned out. So fun! So you saw the yarn that I dyed up for this project in my last episode, and you heard me talk a little bit about that process. And yeah, it definitely knit up how I was hoping to. It's looking a little more splotchy on the camera than it does in real life, but everything is very vibrant, and it's also very variegated, not very variegated. Wow. It's also a little more complex because octopuses can change their coloring and they're really good at blending in, so I didn't want just one solid color. And green and orange are the colors that Joel chose because they're his favorite colors. And I splurged on these eyes. They're absolutely beautiful, hand-painted eyes from an Etsy seller. Creations by Devlin, I think, is the name, but I will go ahead and put it in the show notes. And so they're a beautiful gold shimmery color in the normal light. I'm going to insert a photo since I can't do a close-up. And then they glow in the dark. They glow blue. It is really exciting. I found these eyes because I was searching for 21 millimeter eyes with the nice slit pupil because I was out, so I was going to need to buy some anyway. And when these turned up on Etsy, I just decided that, well, I didn't just decide. I put them in my cart for a couple of days and I thought about it because I'm planning to knit myself an octopus as well. And they were $4 a pair, and then shipping was like $4. So essentially I spent $12 for glow in the dark eyes. But the pattern was only $2.50 and the yarn was free and the dye I used was free. So I decided that $6 for glow in the dark octopuses, $6 a piece for a glow in the dark octopus, was not too excessive of a splurge, especially since I knew that these tentacles were going to be a lot of work. So it felt like a nice reward, and let me tell you, they were. This is partly my own fault. So the pattern is written for either an Aran weight yarn or a sport held doubled for the main color, which is this green, and then the orange is supposed to be a sport weight held doubled because you hold it singly for the eyelids. So I was already holding 2 strands of the sport weight, and this yarn is Bartlett yarn, so it's a woolen spun, very sturdy, rustic kind of yarn, so it's quite thick already. So even just knitting these on size 5 needles, I was getting a very firm fabric, which is always a bit more of a challenge to knit on my neck and shoulders. But I also remembered that I had this weird sparkle ombre yarn that my niece had picked out a couple Christmases ago for a hat at our local yarn store down in Texas, and I knit her the hat, and these days she requests everything that I knit her, like clothing-wise, to be black. So I know she's not going to want another rainbow sparkle thing, and I had leftovers of that. And so I decided that it would be really fun to add a little bit of sparkle, because the ombre colors were like orange and yellow and pink, to the tentacles of the octopus. So I was holding 3 strands of yarn and still only using the size 5 needles because I needed the belly to match up. So I did create that problem myself. I made it a little bit worse, but each of these tentacles, you knit them in tarja flat, and then you seam them up. So, and you knit them while they're all attached to the body, and I knit the first 3 tentacles before stuffing the body, both because the eyeballs hadn't arrived yet and because it just seemed simpler. There'd be less stuff to get in my way. But since each tentacle you knit closes this a little more, you do have to stuff the body right around the 4th tentacle, I would say. And so after that, you're trying to knit, and they're short rows, obviously, so you're trying to turn a lot, and then there's like this giant octopus head dangling as you knit. So I am not going to lie to you and say that this is just a walk in the park kind of knitting, but if you don't mind mattress seaming, and I quite enjoy mattress stitch, so that wasn't a problem for me. And I do think it was easier to stuff them by just putting the stuffing in and then seaming than it would have been to try to get the stuffing down the other way. But if you don't mind that, then I really think it's very doable. And I just love how the shaping is done and how realistic, I mean, you know what I mean. It looks more realistic, more like a real octopus than a cartoon octopus, and that's what I love about it. And since I knitted at such a firm gauge, and since this yarn, it's just got cool qualities to begin with, so you really can kind of play with Damphair's tentacles and curl them up. You can make them go different ways. I can't show you that because of the focusing thing. I'm just going to have them sit on my shoulder. There we go. And let's see. I did mention this was a paid-for pattern. I found it after it was featured on the Ravelry front page and could not resist. As far as modifications, I didn't do many. Both the body and the mouth start with casting on 4 and then immediately increasing to 8. And I just went ahead and cast on 8 and sewed that hole up with the end later because I hate having 1 stitch each on double pointed needles. So at least starting with 2 is a little bit simpler. And that worked fine. See? No hole. Let's see. What other modifications did I make? The pattern got a little confusing in the tentacles. Not too badly. As long as you've been knitting for a little while, you know, like there's a row missing. And then the references to MC and CC, main color and contrast color, switch at a certain point. And so you just have to mentally switch that in your brain. But other than that, it wasn't too confusing, so I followed that to pattern except for knitting the first few before finishing the head. I don't have wool roving to stuff it with, so I just used regular polyfill, but other than that, I followed the stuffing directions. I know, so one thing I did do is the tentacle decreases are written to happen at the very edge of the fabric, and since I knew I was going to be seaming that with mattress stitch, I find it easier to seam if I have just a plain knit stitch on either edge, so I put those decreases 1 in. So that was the modification I made to the tentacles, and then an accidental modification. When I knit 4 of the tentacles, I realized I didn't have as many stitches left here as I did left here, and I must have forgotten to do an increase row, but I wasn't going to rip out 4 tentacles, so I just used fewer stitches and did a quick increase row at the very beginning for each of these 4 front tentacles, and I think it worked out well. So the only other caveat I would mention about the pattern is that the yardage it calls for in the pattern directions are different from the yardage it calls for on the pattern page, and I used more of this green than I was expecting, so just something to keep in mind. This isn't a pattern to play yarn chicken with. And that is Damphair. While we're on the subject of softies, I thought I would go ahead and tell you about the knit along. So it is a Here We Gnome Again knit along, which I am co-hosting with Sarah and Kate from the Imagine Landscapes podcast. Sarah is the designer of the gnome pattern, and you saw that I knit one for my friend last week. So that blue gnome, Brunhilde, that was knit using the Here We Gnome Again pattern. And all you need to do to join in the knit along is knit that gnome. You have until September 4th to finish one and take a photograph and enter it in the thread of the Imagine Landscapes Ravelry group, and I will include a link to that down in the show notes. And the great thing is that this is a time travel knit along, so works in progress count and even finished objects count. If you've knit a gnome from that pattern ever since it came out, go ahead and add it to that thread and you'll be entered for the prizes. And there are going to be 4 prizes. The ones given by Sarah are going to be, so each of 3 winners will get their choice of either her first gnome pattern, which is Never Not Gnoming, and I have that one and it's very fun and it's very scrap friendly. I would highly recommend it. And the other option, if you already have that pattern or you don't want it, is you will receive a free copy of her next gnome pattern when that is published. So I think that's really fun. And then my gift is going to be a copy of the Here We Gnome Again pattern to a winner. And obviously, if you've entered the giveaway, you already have a copy of that pattern. So the winner will get to pick a friend to receive the pattern. And so basically, my prize to you is getting to gift something to one of your online knitting friends, which I think will be really fun. What I enjoy about knit-alongs is that they get this kind of group enthusiasm going and you get to chatter back and forth or just share photos and everyone is inspiring each other to pick up their needles and get that pattern off your queue and, you know, onto your lap. And so I think that this prize is just another online community building prize. So those are the prizes. And the other way to participate is on Instagram. Please share photos of both your works in progress and your finished objects with the hashtag GnomeAgainCal, and that is with a G, obviously, because gnome is with a G. And we will be following that hashtag, and we really look forward to seeing all of your gnomes. So that is that. I'm really excited. I'm definitely going to knit myself one during the knit along, because all the softies I've been knitting lately, I've been giving away. So. And as much as I was excited to knit Damphair, and I'm really excited to give him to Joel and have everything I need to knit my own octopus, I'm going to take a break from that because 8 tentacles is a lot. So I don't want to knit 16 this quickly. So that is the knit along news. And now we will go into, whoops, apparently I will just throw my phone. But I will show you my works in progress. So there's nothing surprising. I'm still working on the summer meadow socks, which are a gift for a friend, using Knit Pick Stroll in the grass colorway, which is a fun green. Green is one of his favorite colors. And I have just started the heel flap. If you can see. I thought I was using the blueberry waffle pattern, but I misremembered it, and so I've just kind of invented a sock pattern of my own, and I'm knitting 1 round plain, just knit everything, and 1 round knit 2, purl 2. And I really like how it's turning out. I think it's really pretty and fun and stretchy. This is the 2nd sock of the pair, and my friend's birthday is in August. So this is my social knitting project. That's why I haven't made more progress with it. We were playing a lot of board games this weekend, so I didn't have as much knitting time because I don't like knitting 3 stitches and then putting it down to make more moves with the board game. I'd rather just focus on the game. And then there is my The Night is Full of Stars shawl, which is the Celestarium, there we go, Celestarium pattern, which is a pattern you can buy on Ravelry, and it is a star chart for the Northern Hemisphere. It makes a pie shawl, so circular, and here it is. It's getting pretty big. I'm really excited. I am 7 rows from the edging. So I've only got 7 rows left of the constellation charts, and then I can go ahead and decide whether I'm going to do the garter stitch edging that the pattern writes or whether I'm going to use a fancier lace edging. I just had to wind my last skein of yarn, And I just had to open the new bag of beads. So I almost made it all the way through, but that's okay. I went ahead and wound this in a ball instead of a cake because I know I'm not going to use it all, and I prefer my leftovers to be in ball form because I keep them all in a fishbowl thing, and they look prettier that way. Yeah, I'm really pleased with how quickly I've been able to move through this because I wanted to wear it for a wedding that's happening the weekend of August 18th, and it looks like I'll be able to manage that. And I still am debating whether to do a lace edging or not. I know that I'll have enough yarn to do a slightly bigger edging if I want to, but I don't know if I'm going to want to block a lace edging. So I'll make that decision when I need to, which will probably be in a couple of days. I don't think I have anything else to add. Oh, just in case you haven't seen my previous episodes, this is Owool fingering yarn, which is a 100% organic merino, which has been superwashed in like a US, like in the US, it's processed, and then it's a different superwashing process that's more environmentally friendly. And this is the Appalachian Stone colorway. And the beads are size 5/0 Miyazaki foil line triangular beads. So I think they really sparkle and look very star-like. Before we get into talking about previous sweaters, I thought I would go ahead and share a couple crafty passages I've come across in my reading this week. The first is actually an audiobook, so I'm just going to play you the audiobook. I'm pretty sure that that's allowed because it's only a few sentences, so I don't see why copyright issues would be involved. So this is from the Penderwicks at Last by Jeanne Birdall. This is the 5th book in her Penderwicks series, which is an absolutely charming children's series about 4 sisters. And if you enjoy classic children's literature like the Anne of Green Gables series, or what else would I compare it to? Little Women, that kind of stuff, I'm sure that you'll love this series. It's certainly set in the contemporary Massachusetts, or New England, I guess. One of them is set in Maine. But it's kind of before smartphones, so I'm guessing it's set in the 90s. But yeah, so I've loved them all. They are my pleasure reading, and the audiobooks are excellent as well. So what I'm about to play you is a passage about, so Lydia is seeing a workshop that her friend's mother has, a studio room, and her friend's mother is an artist, and she works with textiles.
Color was everywhere. In great skeins of wool hanging from hooks, large spools of thread lined up on shelves, piles of bright fabric, and a half-finished tapestry, this one had shape and was just as lovely as the one downstairs, on the big upright loom. On other shelves were rows of stuffed dolls and animals made of felt, each with its own expressive little face and wearing clothes with itsy-bitsy pockets and buttons smaller than that. The dolls were children of many races, and the animals of many species: an elephant, a fox, a donkey, a pig, a dog, and a chicken. Lydia peered closely. The chicken was wearing a black mask with pointy ears and a black cape. The chicken Alice had named Batgirl.
So I thought that was a lovely passage. I didn't think about how if I'm just playing an audiobook, I have to just look at the camera and figure out something to do instead of reading like I usually do. My camera battery died, so apologies. The second book that I'm going to read to you from is called An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. And it is one of the most incredible books that I've read this year, and really, it was so moving and engaging and rich that it's become one of my favorite books of all time, and I can't wait to reread it again in the future. So it is about Celestial and Roy, who are an early 30-something professional black couple living in Atlanta, and they have been married for about a year when something happens that dramatically impacts the course of their relationship, and it's an examination of them as people, of their relationship together, and also of the other loved ones in their lives, their parents, a couple of close friends, And all of this is within the context of being Black in the southern U.S. and what that means and how that impacts your life, really. So I'm making it sound a lot more intellectual than, and it's a literary novel, but it's not one that makes you work to read it. The prose is incredibly fluid. I found it as page turning as I would just a thriller. I just could not put it down. And really, I think if you love reading, you'll love this book. That's my blanket recommendation, but especially if you love character-driven stories or ones that look at emotional drama and that aren't afraid to look at how complicated life can be and looking at all of the gray zones instead of trying to depict everyone as black or white, not, okay, in the sense that, you know, there's either complete evil or complete good and there's no between, that kind of thing. This is a very nuanced, intelligent, wonderful story. Okay, so I highly recommend it. You should read it. But Celestial, in addition to everything else that's great about this book, Celestial is a doll maker, and she's a textile artist as well as the other character that I talked about. And so I thought I would share with you a passage where she talks about when she was first introduced to doll making. So she had gone home from college after something had happened, and she was trying to emotionally recoup, and an aunt came over and was trying to help her. And so she's giving her a little bit of a pep talk, and then she pulled out a dozen socks, embroidery thread, and cotton batting. This part of the story, you know, everyone does. She showed me how to make the sock dolls that would be donated to Grady Hospital to comfort the crack babies. We went over there sometimes and held the poor little ones who were so strung out that they rattled in my arms. It wasn't charity. I sewed those first dolls to work the guilt out of my system. I never thought of poupées, commissions, contests, or exhibitions. I felt like every time I made something to comfort a motherless infant, I was repaying the universe for what I did. After a while, the dolls in D.C. weren't connected anymore. I had a weight pressing on my soul, and I dolled my way out from under it. So, and she mentions other times in the book how sewing and creating things with her hands is how she deals with tough emotional times, and I'm sure that all of us knitters can relate to that. Time to talk about sweaters that are behaving themselves. And I just want to state that I would love to have as many of you join me as possible. I kind of floated the idea on Instagram. I'm not going to do anything formal, but I definitely could use the inspiration to actually, you know, do the work that I need to, because I don't mind frogging things, but I hate trying to pick the ends out of finished objects. So I need to sit down, pick those ends out, and get the frogging started on this stuff. And it would be great to have some companionship, as I talked about. That's my favorite part of knit-alongs, and also some encouragement. So I'm showing you everything that I want to have done within the next couple months, and it's up to you to hold me accountable. So first up, it's my formalized curiosity cardigan. This is out of Quince & Company Sparrow, which is an organic linen yarn in the colorway Nanny Berry. And I have knit 3 sweaters in this yarn. This is the only one that has bagged out. It's too stretched and baggy, and I don't know if it was because it was knit from the top down instead of bottom up. The other 2 were also knit seamlessly, so I don't think it's the lack of seams. I think the other possibility is that this beautiful stitch pattern is based on ribbing, and everything else I've knit with linen, I've used a stockinette base. So that could be what is going on. And the problem is, at first, it's way too long, and the waistband doesn't fit at my natural waist, which is what I like, because then I can wear it over full skirts or dresses with full skirts, and I look proportional. So at first I thought, okay, well, I can just rip out the waistband, since it's knit top down, and rip it back to be shorter and do the waistband more snugly, and I'll still have a sweater. But the problem is that this region has lengthened as well, so it just hangs too low and it looks really awkward and it just doesn't look like it fits. So I am going to frog all of this and knit myself another sweater using the same yarn, because I love this yarn and I love this color and I want to be wearing this sweater again. So that is one of, yeah, I know what I'm doing with that one for sure. Although I probably won't start knitting with that yarn for a while because we're in August now, so pretty soon it'll be wool sweater wearing month again. Another Quince & Company cardigan that I'm going to reclaim the yarn from. This is my Sugar Plum cardigan, knit out of Quince & Company Tern in the Dusk colorway, which is a beautiful mauve. I don't know if it's showing up mauve on the camera, but that's what it is. I love Tern. It's one of my very favorite sweater yarns, and I wear this sweater all the time. However, when I knit it, I decided to experiment with slightly bigger sleeves than before, and they're too big, especially since this has a very fitted body, and so I've always felt like that was a bit awkward. I'm also not a huge fan of how snug the body is. This is the stitch pattern from the Hermione's Everyday Socks, and I love the way it looks, but it really clings in a garment, which is great in socks, but not necessarily great in a cardigan. And then this horizontal yoke, even though I like how it looks, I don't think it flatters my body type to just have suddenly other stuff going on. So I'm going to frog this and knit myself a sweater, probably still with mainly knit and purl textures, but more of a vertical pattern and slimmer sleeves. And this is definitely going to be very high up on the priority list because I wear this current iteration all the time. So my hesitation here has been, I don't want to be without this sweater. So that's why I want to get this done before it has warmed up. Oh, and the contrast button band is in Chanterelle, which is Quince & Company Finch, because I ran out of yarn while knitting this, probably because of those giant sleeves. I'm thinking about adapting the HG mitts, which is a free pattern, into a sweater, because I think that would look really nice. Then there is my Odile sweater cardigan, which I talked about just a couple episodes ago, and I had mentioned then that I plan to rip back this yoke and reknit it. Unfortunately, that means I have to rip out the button bands too, but the button band was waving a little. I knit it on too many stitches, so that's okay. So what I plan to do, this one I'll probably knit before this one, just because the yoke will go really quickly. Since I don't have to now knit out the whole sweater, I just need to reknit that yoke. So, also Quince & Company Chickadee yarn. This makes it sound like I don't like Quince & Company yarn or that it's not wearing well sweaters. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's just that I love their yarn so much, and I'm also a bit of a perfectionist about sweaters, so I tend to use their yarn for more sweaters. So I think that's why I'm showing you their yarn. Another one that just needs some tweaking is this. You have never seen this on the podcast, even though I knit it last year. This is my Market Day vest, and I made it up myself using Alice Starmore Hebridean 2-ply yarn. And I was using the leftover yarn from a birthday a couple of years ago. And I really wanted to challenge myself to knit something that incorporated blue, yellow, and red, which are those kind of traditional, bright primary colors, but that still felt like something that I would wear because that's not my usual color comfort zone. But I wanted something that felt very folksy and kind of picked up on maybe like Eastern European textile traditions. Not really, but that kind of feel. Hopefully you know what I'm getting at. So the problem with this vest, I love it from the back. I would wear it from the back all the time. Unfortunately, the first vest I knit, which I find very easy to wear, I knit as a pullover. And the only downside of that, I should say I find it very easy to style. I do not find it easy to get on. Am I not in focus? There we go. I don't find it easy to get on and off because the waistband is quite snug and my shoulders are much broader than my waist. So pulling it on and off is a bit of a challenge, and I can't do it on the days when my neck and shoulders are really hurting. If you're a new viewer, I have chronic illnesses. And so for this one, I decided, hey, I'll just steek it. And then I'll be able to put it on much more easily. So unfortunately, once you steek something, you can't really adjust the fit that well. And for some reason, I just made the neckline much lower than I had on the first vest. I don't know why. So I'm stuck with that. And then the other problem was that the bust turned out to be snugger than I wanted, whereas the waist was already the size that I wanted. So I didn't want to do a traditional button band. So I tried this like short row button band that gets wider, but buttons looked weird on that. So then I was going to do hooks and clasps, but it looks funky. And this whole time I was playing yarn chicken too. And so I just put it away, and I've never worn it. But it has occurred to me that I only need it to fasten at the waist. So what I'm going to do is just knit a slim button band on both sides, just a straight one, not a short row one, and then get one of those clasps and put that where my waist is, and I'll just wear it clasped at the waist. And I do have a little bit more yarn in these colors now that I got for Christmas, so I will probably just use that, because this poor yarn, I've ripped and redone this so many times. Like, the steek was definitely starting to be a little bit vulnerable. But now that I have that plan, all I need to do is see if there's a place locally where I can buy a clasp, or if I need to order it off Etsy, and then I'll be able to wear this. And I think once I've got that done, I will wear it, even though it's not my traditional style. It still has that kind of storybook element that I tend to look for in my clothing. So I really hope I was in focus during that last segment. The problem was when I had to switch the batteries on my camera, the manual focus ring is on the front of the lens, so I accidentally bumped that, and so then I didn't have the focus anymore. So apologies if things went terribly wrong. I've got 2 more sweaters to show you, and these I'm more on the fence about. I really hope I was in focus during that last segment. When I switched the camera battery, it bumped the manual focus ring, so I had to kind of get it back while sitting in the chair, and we'll just hope for the best. I have 2 more sweaters to show you, and these I'm more on the fence about what to do with them. And so this first one, I'm pretty sure that I am just going to give it away. I've given other sweaters away in the past, and I don't miss them, and it was really nice knowing that someone else was going to get more use out of them than I would. So that is, I can't remember what I named this cardigan. I know it was a Mary Oliver poem, but it's based on an Alana Dacos pattern, so it's got these really pretty leaf cables on the front of the yoke, and I added them to the back, and I put a little owl in the middle, because why not? And I changed the ribbing a little bit. So this pattern is knit out of Barocco Ultra Alpaca, which is a worsted weight yarn, and it's just too itchy for me to wear as a sweater. And I don't really know what else I would do with the yarn, so I thought I would offer it up here first. As I said, it's worsted weight, and I am happy. I'll take a photo of me wearing it so that you can get a feel for it, and I'll measure the dimensions. I think it's around a 34-inch bust. And as you can see, I didn't weave in the ends on the button bands because I really wasn't sure whether I was going to keep them or not. So you can let me know whether you want to keep the button bands as is or reknit them to add more buttons to prevent buckling, and I will either weave or not weave in the ends accordingly. Or if you just want to rip it and claim the yarn, I am happy with that too. This would be a really fun yarn to dye because it's a light gray. So it'll be your choice, whoever wants this sweater. The one thing is I'm going to take the buttons off and keep them because I really like these buttons. And I want to use them on a cowl or something like that. So you will have to find your own buttons. But yeah, so I think that that's what I'm going to do with that. And if no one wants it, then I will go ahead and reclaim the yarn and, I don't know, maybe use it to knit hats for a local homeless shelter or something. I hesitate because if I find the yarn itchy, I don't want anyone else to be stuck with like an itchy forehead because of the hat. But we'll see. I'll figure something out. I guess I could use it to knit a pillow or something. But yeah, unfortunately, this yarn just does not agree with my skin. So if you are interested in giving this sweater a new home, and you can see I never trimmed off the threads with the buttons either. I don't know if I mentioned that I used red thread to throw them on because that was considered a good luck charm in certain parts of Europe, and I was rereading women's work the first 10,000 years at the time, so I thought that would be fun. Anyway, if you're interested in receiving this, then leave a comment either on YouTube or in the Ravelry comments thread, and that way I will know that there's at least someone who would give it a better home than I did. Honestly, for me, I was knitting it to see if I would wear it more like a jacket, because I'm never going to wear a worsted weight sweater indoors. They just run too warm. And this is the second jacket that I've knit myself, and I didn't wear either of them. And I finally decided that I'm just not going to wear them, because with woven jackets, which I have quite a few in my closet, and I do wear them, they're good at disguising when I'm not wearing a certain undergarment up top, right? Whereas knit sweaters cling to that area, and so if you wear them closed, it becomes very obvious. So then I have to put one on when I'm on walks. Anyway, so the point is, I wear my jacket so that I don't have to put on a bra. And knit jackets don't let me do that. So now I know I shouldn't knit any more jackets in the future. Plus so that's what it comes down to, in all honesty. So let me know if you're interested in this. I think there's about 4.5 skeins of yarn in there, like somewhere around 900 yards, I think, if you're interested in it for reclaiming the yarn, which wouldn't offend me in the slightest. Finally, there's my Phryne cardigan, which is knit in Canopy & Company fingering. So this sweater is also just too itchy, and I knit it longer because I was trying to like experiment with silhouettes, and I wanted to do more of a flapper thing, obviously from the name, but that's just not what I wear. It doesn't fit in with my wardrobe, and it's high maintenance. I have to wear a long sleeve t-shirt underneath it, and so it just doesn't get that much use, and hand knit sweaters take up a lot of space in sweater drawers. So the thing is that this one, Canopy & Co. fingering, what is it? The Fiber Company Canopy fingering weight yarn. It's a luxury yarn, and I bought this on D-Stash, but it still cost me like $60, right? So I'm thinking, I feel like I have two options here. Either I can frog the yarn and use it to knit like a shawl, and I would be able to wear this in a shawl because it's a merino bamboo alpaca blend. So it's it's baby alpaca. So it's the baby alpaca that is itching me. I've learned I just can't wear alpaca in sweaters. But I can wear it in shawls and scarves and that kind of stuff. So I could knit myself a little beret, maybe some gloves, and then some kind of shawl or something like that, and pretend that I'm running around as an extra on Season 1 of Outlander, which would make me really happy. This color is sarsaparilla, by the way. It's a brown. But I am also willing to basically trade this for a Quince & Company gift card because I wear Quince & Company yarn in sweaters a lot, and so I know that I will get a lot of use out of that. So if there's someone who wants this sweater, which I think it's a lovely sweater, don't get me wrong, and I won't remove the buttons, I promise. They're vintage glass buttons. It's a very quality sweater, and it's got a little sailor collar on the back. I'll take some photos of me wearing it too. So if there is someone who would like this sweater and would like to give me a Quince & Company gift card for basically the cost of the yarn plus shipping, so that would probably be like $70, which I know is a lot. And that's why I figure I'll probably end up frogging it for the yarn, because I can't imagine many people would want to do that. But just in case, I thought I would put that out there, because I knit it, it's entirely seamed, it holds its structure beautifully. I used a custom fit pattern from Amy Herzog, and so it's a really lovely sweater. So it seems a shame to frog it if someone would want it for that price. And yeah, and I would send it priority, obviously, with insurance. So in case you're interested in that one, feel free to message me either on Ravelry or Instagram. I'm the charm of it on both, and we can talk about something with that. Otherwise, this will become a shawl for me, and hat, and all those kinds of things. That was a long topic. I had fun, though. I hope you had fun. I really enjoy when knitters kind of go through their old projects and tell me about them. So that is everything that I have to say. If you would like to keep up with me in between podcasts, I am most active on Instagram, where I am also the charm of it. And you can leave comments either here on YouTube or on the Ravelry comment thread. That's the only one I'm replying to. And it's always linked in the show notes. And I love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.